Check 1, 2. All right. Howdy. Welcome to another Sunday live stream, the weekend live stream. Had a little trouble trying to get the chat going, so I can't see it yet if anybody said anything. But anyway, been a crazy week, crazy weekend. I actually have a gig to go off to later today as well, so that's why the stream is a little earlier, and I couldn't do it yesterday because I got tied up with a bunch of other things. But updates. I got a new video coming very soon. I got the tablature done for it. I talked about it last week on the stream. Good Rockin' Tonight, the Elvis version, and of course I do the same thing I've been doing the little history of the song and where it came from. This one has a pretty interesting background to it, and still can't see the chat yet. Anyway, I'm gonna try to pull it up elsewhere. And then we have a couple other things going on. People seem to like that Rockabilly riff video, so that's good. I'm gonna do another one, but this time it's gonna be more 2-beat stuff. So this was swing, kind of a shuffle rockabilly feel, which again is pretty common for a lot of rockabilly, at least 50%, if not more. So I'll probably do something that's more, right, 2-beat oriented. So you can have stuff like, or just same idea, just you're fretting all the notes as opposed to relying on some open strings. And of course the chicken picking stuff. And you can do a lot of the same types of riffs even though it's really fast, especially something like this. Right, that little bebop scale, you can still do it just really fast, especially if I do recommend turning the delay down quite a bit, or even possibly off if you're playing 2-beat type stuff. But I think this one isn't too bad on the digital version. But yeah, you can do something like whatever, and you can still run a lot of those same scales. You're just playing it faster. You're playing individual notes, and that's where you kind of have to really work on more economy picking. So when you're switching from string to string, you're not just jumping back and forth and going downbeats or downstrokes and upbeats or upstrokes, because you can it does slow you down a little bit. So I'll keep the stream a little short today, but since I have to head out for a show, but I'll at least talk about what I mentioned in the stream, and a couple of people had mentioned about going over like the rig and the gear and the setup. I'm definitely going to do a video on that, as well as I had mentioned somebody had mentioned something about pull-offs. So I never really thought about it too much, and some of the been giving some lessons as well, just private lessons, and I never really thought about it. It was always something that just kind of seemed intuitive or natural, I guess. And they call them pull-offs, but it really should be like pull away, because that's what you're really doing. You're not just lifting your finger, you're pulling down and away. It's a slight motion, it's subtle, but you're still doing that. And that's a good way to practice it. You can use it for all your fingers. You can do it this way with these two fingers. and then your second and third finger, and then your third and fourth. And when you're practicing with your third and fourth finger, it's always good to kind of make sure that your hand is your wrist is twisted up like this, as opposed to that's really awkward. At least it is for me. And you can do it anywhere on the neck, and that just you can use all three. Right. So that's just basically you're just picking once, and then pull off, pull away, pull down and away. Same thing here. And that doesn't matter what string you're doing it. You're always kind of pulling, kind of coming down with the wrist a little bit. Whatever you want to do there. That's really the trick to the pull-offs as well. Another thing you can do is for practice. You can also use this in a song. It is kind of limited to the key you're playing in, but you can pull off 5th fret, 3rd fret, open string, or 6th fret. You can also do all of them. And that just gives you a way so you don't have to constantly have a fret down. And it just helps you get practice with those strings, and practice with that technique. Build up the muscles in the hand and get your dexterity up for that. Start slow. And make sure every note is clear, you know. And then slowly build up the speed. So that's really it with pull-offs too. Even with double stops, it's the same concept. Same idea. You're just using the pad of your finger as opposed to instead of the tips of the fingers. It's the same idea though. And oh, hi, Richard. Yeah, sorry, I can't see chat normally, so I'm pulling it up in my my YouTube screen. But anyway, thank you, I appreciate it. Yeah, it was fun to make. I'll do another one with, like I said, the 2-beat stuff, and then whatever other feels I can come up with that you might get within the genre of music. You know, the slower you start playing the shuffles, and the swing, it changes a little bit, but not too much. But some riffs can be a little less. They don't really land as well. Like I would say something like this one. That sounds good. Medium tempo, fast. Go too fast like a 2-beat, it doesn't really work too well. But if you're playing something slow like you need a little bit more sustain to kind of trying to get, you know, to do something like that. Well, thank you, Dane. I really appreciate it. I do the best I can, you know. How much pressure do I apply to the string when doing pull-offs? Not much. I mean, it's just in general. I mean, your pressure is going to go up and down, and it's going to change depending on you know, the part of the song, the riff that you're playing, all of that. But I try to keep my note playing pretty light, regardless of what I'm playing. Sometimes it's tough, especially if you're doing bends. You know, you're going to have to give it a certain amount of pressure, but basically just enough to where the note rings out, and then it's clear. And you just kind of play with it and practice and see, okay, what's still not quite clear, or the note's not sustaining, or it's dying, or it sounds dead, like that. And you slowly just give it pressure until it starts to ring, and it's like, okay, there it is. And then just practice playing really light, because that's one thing I've noticed that, and it was with playing, is that when you play really light, you can go pretty fast. You can go a little faster than normal. If you try to um, really put a lot of pressure, you start to stiffen. Your hand will start to stiffen up, and that actually will slow you down. So, and it's going to happen. I mean, as you play, you'll play a riff, and then I just kind of, okay, I'll get done with that riff, go back to a rhythm part, try to relax, relax, relax. Just take it easy. And every guitar is different, of course. That has a lot to do with the setup. Like this guitar is set up really, it's just always been set up well. I can't take credit for it or anything. Yeah, that's what I've heard. I've heard he has a really light touch. It looks like it when you watch him up close, and I try to do that as well. I've always had a light touch, but it is dependent on the instrument. If your action is really high, I mean, then there's not really, you have to put more pressure. It's just the nature of the instrument. So I try to play to the instrument. If I happen to be in a situation where I get stuck with a guitar where the action is really high or something, an acoustic would take quite a bit more pressure. That's not as easy. That the jazz box back there, that requires a little bit more pressure, the gauge of the string, all of these things. Like I said, this one is really low. It's everybody that's ever played it always calls it a fretless wonder, because it barely feels like there's any height to the action at all. It plays like butter. It's great. I wish the other ones played like that, but I think there's something about the dimensions of the neck, because this is a slightly longer neck. I forget the number, the length, but it's a little bit longer, closer to like a Strat or there's the two main Gretsch lengths. There's the 6120s, and then there's the Falcon type. And the 6120s, they're not exactly the same as a Gibson, but they're closer to a Gibson as far as the length of the neck. This one's closer to like a Strat or a Jaguar or something. And that doesn't really make too much of a difference. The only downside with this guitar specifically is the silver sparkle on the top. If you're not really familiar with position and feel of where the guitar is, especially if it takes just slightly bit more to get to the chord or something, it's hard to see where the dots are, because especially if you're on a stage where there's lights, it's like you can't see. It just reflects back at you, and you kind of have to rely on just being familiar with the instrument and knowing where to play. Yeah, that's kind of just the nature of this thing. But I've found the 6120 more comfortable. I don't know whether it's that I did start playing. My first real expensive guitar was a Gibson, so I really got used to that neck and learned a lot of basic guitar playing on that guitar. So then when I got a Tennessean, and then I got the orange one, it was very comfortable. And then eventually when I got this one, I'm like, whoa, that's was a little bit different. But at this point, it doesn't really matter. But yeah, back to the pull-offs. If your action is really low, and that's really, again, what I like to... There's a standard setup for action. It's typically 2/32 across the 12th fret. But you can sometimes get it lower if the neck is really straight and the frets are really straight, like this one. And you can always just kind of bend the strings, usually around like on here. Just keep going up each fret and see if you get a fret out by the time you're getting up to the 15th, 16th fret. If you're not, then you're probably good. You can probably lower it even more, but too low sometimes doesn't work either. So, let's see, what else did I say? So yeah, that's really the only thing with the pull-offs. Hammer-ons, I mean, I don't really do. Again, really light. Really light. And the volume of the amp as well, too. The type of amp you have, the how loud you can get it. One of the problems with playing in smaller venues is that you have to play fairly quiet, and to get the touch sensitivity that you can get out of turning when you turn an amp up to at least 5. It's loud, and the attenuator helps with that, so you can still get that and still get a little bit of sustain and distortion. Most of the sustain is the guitar. If you're not getting sustain, it's not the amp or anything, it's the guitar primarily. Now you can combat that with, again, cranking the amp, saturating a little more, get a compressor sustainer pedal if you want. I find that those pedals kind of suck the tone out. It is nice for tellies, I think. I find, especially with the chicken picking stuff or anything where you're bouncing back and forth between low strings, high strings quite a bit. It evens everything out a little bit. It gives you that sustain compressor sustainer pedal. Just the Boss pedal, and that can solve a lot of problems as well. Especially if you're playing with an amp that you can't quite crank up, or it's a combo amp and you can't separate it, or you don't want to with an attenuator. Let's see what else I was going to go on about today. That was a question people had asked, and then of course the gear rundown, which I'll do a full video on that. And I'm going to be, and I've mentioned this many times before, as the summer's just been really busy, but things are starting to wind down a little bit, so I'm going to have some more time to do more videos, and I'll have the Good Rockin' Tonight's going to be the next one, and then I'll have a beginner guitar tutorial class, but yeah, like a series. So I'll be starting from the very beginning and going as far as I can take it, at least anyway. And that's where I'll go over techniques like pull-offs and hammer-ons and bends and that sort of stuff. How's the recording going? It's going slow, but I mean, yeah, we pretty much finished writing all of the tunes that we need to write. So now we need to book some studio time, but right now we got so many shows coming up until that doesn't the gigs don't really slow down until November. So there's a little bit of a gap in October, so I'm going to try to take that time to do mostly new videos and, of course, mix the album. I'm mixing 2 songs right now. I'm doing the which you've heard, the Cattle Kate, mixing that, and then I've got a couple of overdubs, extra instruments I want to add to that. I might release a couple different versions of that just so I can get something out, and then another one called Sinner Man, which is a kind of a blues swing minor thing. It's got a cool, I think it's a little cool guitar riff in there. It goes like this. And that's kind of the main riff, and it throws it all together. And it's a lot of floor tom snare kind of thing. I've always liked that. Keep the low E going, and then just play around with your minor pentatonics, like. Or. And what else? So yeah, there's a third one. I forgot about it. That one's just a slow kind of surf rock instrumental tune. And then we got to get back in the studio and record the rest of it. So that's kind of what's on the agenda. The docket is more tutorials. People seem to like the riff things and um, technique type videos, so I'll be doing those as well as the series, so everything can kind of be in one spot. Now, the other thing I had mentioned was the swing in the eighth notes in the something I do give uh, private lessons as well, and the one thing I've noticed is a lot of guitar players do kind of struggle a little bit with the swing, and it just takes a little bit of really getting used to. It's hard. It's a difficult thing to really explain. And you play something straight, so I can demo it for you. Like, take the Rock This Town riff because it's the most obvious one. Or even if you're going up and down. So that's more like a surf beat and a rock beat, or a twist beat, So if you want to swing it, right? Or even just the rhythm. The best way to do that is definitely down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. And the delay helps, but you don't need the delay or to just swing anything. And even when you're playing chords. Up, up. And listening to it is helpful. Just trying to get that when you try to write it out, like to see it, it doesn't really it's not really intuitive. The best way to really grasp it is to have like a dotted eighth, 16th. So the first note is long, the second one's short, and then the other one is the third note would be a little longer again. If anybody struggles with that, there's a couple of everybody knows, like marches. You take a march, like something like the the Battle Hymn of the Republic. Bump, 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 bump. Right, that is so it's a march, but it's still that dotted eighth, 16th. So you're gonna get that's something to kind of listen to and just kind of. And you can start by something that's slower, a slower tempo like that, and just do downstrokes. And you know where that, then you get used to that. Then try doing down, up, down, up. Right? That's the best advice I could give on something like that. And the same with the chords, too. What helped me kind of really get a feel for swing in general was not the guitar so much, but drums. And either playing with a stick on just a drum pad or something, bump, 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 or trying to do a train beat where you're, back and forth with the accenting with the right hand, you're hitting like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. I would take songs that in my head that were normally swing and try to straighten them out. And then take songs that are straight and swing them. And that little exercise, that fun little exercise can help you get a feel for the swing. And then, of course, with the guitar, the palm muting thing really helps. You can go back and forth. And then when the vocals come in, you can palm mute it. And that's another thing if you utilize the palm muting when you're playing live, then you don't have to really worry about like boost pedals or turning the volume down too much on the guitar, worrying too much about that. I mean, you might need to a little bit if your guitar is if it's too loud when you're trying to play chords and the everything. It's a real quiet song. But the other thing you can do is take the pick and chuck it up and use your thumb, strum chords like that. And that's another way to kind of bring the volume down without having to worry about boost pedals. I don't really like dealing with pedals live. It's fine. It's fine to set them, have them be set, and then just I don't want to have to deal with it while I'm playing because I'm going back and forth between singing and playing and uh, doing whatever saying something on the mic or whatever, and then to have to worry about I gotta be in the middle of a solo and click that pedal on. I mean, if it's just like a click, like put a tremolo on or something like that, that's fine. But too much fooling around with the pedals is just very annoying, and I just don't like to have a pedal board in front of me. It's just in my way, basically. So I used to always put my pedals on the amplifier. And with the Space Echo, you really don't have much of a choice. You have to kind of put it behind you, but and that's different. That's like a big console. You write it, you know, waist level, so it's easy to manipulate. But the pedals are way down there. So if I have to change something for a slower delay or something like that, you got to get down there and fool around with it. So with the boost thing, it's easier to just learn how to kind of control it. And Gretches, I've always found have worked very well for some play rhythm, and it's fine. It's right in there. Just lighten up on the playing a little bit. Palm mute if I need to get the chord out, and then just dig in a little bit harder with your pick, and that will just you're loud enough. You're plenty loud enough. I always I get the guitar loud enough to where the leads are cutting over the cymbals just enough so it can be heard, and then everything else you just control with dynamics. Cool. So hopefully, I have some more time this week and possibly next week. This week's quite busy, but next week I'll be doing another format as well for the live stream in general, where I'll have a little segment where we'll go over a song and then we'll talk about this, and then if anybody has any questions, we can do something like that. Kind of just create more of a show dynamic to it. See how that goes. Let's see what else is going on. That's pretty much it for today. I haven't had a lot of prep for this stream or really the last couple. So it's just the hangout, right? But I'll get ready. I'll be doing my. This is one of the last shows in. I got one more at the end of the month down in Newport, and then things again, like I said, start to slowly back off as far as like day gigs on the weekends. There's a few left, but not too many. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, something popped in my head. If anybody has like or is considering getting a Falcon, these tuners are very odd. They're cool looking, but a couple things with these guys is that they first of all, they don't make, as far as I know, unless they've changed something, they don't make any locking tuners for this type. So if it's a Falcon, you gotta wind it manually. And the standard string winders that you get don't fit. So you have to use a base winder, which is still a little bit too big, but it's something. So it'll slip off here and there. The other thing too is that there's tiny little screws on the top of each of these. I don't know if you can see that, but anyway, and they loosen up quite frequently, actually. So you always have to make sure you check that because you can kind of feel it. If it's a little loose, then you want to make sure that gets tightened. As well as when your strings are off too, make sure that these nuts and bolts. Does this have it? It must. Or these? Oh, these don't even have that. These are the old style. Um, some guitars, the older ones, they don't have the nuts and washers on the top of the strings. This one doesn't, but most guitars do, and those can get loose as well. So you want to check that. Make sure those are tight. Oh, well, thank you, Richard. I appreciate it. And you're welcome, of course. I'm glad everybody, appreciates it. Again, thank everybody for watching the video. I was surprised that that last video got as many views as it did that quickly. Um, but yeah, if those videos are a lot of fun to make, and I don't have to worry about, um, you know, being 100% accurate to a recording or something like that. Speaking of which, I tried going back and listening to Good Rockin' Tonight, which is the next one. I had realized like I'd been playing it wrong for years. Not completely wrong, but I'm still playing the right chords, but the riffs were a little bit different than what I thought by going back and listening to it. And it totally makes sense what he's doing. But I'll save it for the video. But essentially, and even the way I see a lot of other rockabilly players play it is not 100% accurate. But there comes a point to being accurate to the record, and then what makes sense live in a band. Um, and when you do not sometimes being 100% accurate to the record doesn't work, or it doesn't fill up enough space to make it um, it sounds too thin. You need a little bit more going on. So people will change up the way it's played here and there, and that's fine. And you should make it your own. Do I do any psychobilly? A little bit, not too much. I actually have a psychobilly original tune that's going to be on the new album. Not crazy heavy, but less so in the instrumentation, yes, but not so much in the vocals. I don't really do a lot of the gravelly or the screaming type vocals, but for the instrumentation, yes. I love psychobilly. Don't get me wrong. I just haven't done too much of it, but I do enjoy it every time I get a chance to see a band that does it well. Mm. I think that's really. I know a couple. I don't know if there's any other comments that people have made. Been having some issues here with my OBS connection today, so I can't really see everybody's comments here. Let me see if I can find it. I know somebody had asked a question. Exactly what it was. Uh, breaking it down. Oh, somebody had asked about another tune to do, which I might as well just do the whole tune. They just asked about the chord progression to the song "Lonely Summer Nights" by the Stray Cats. Great tune, by the way. But yeah, I just do the whole song. I'll just make a video on the song as opposed to just going over the progression. I haven't done well, I did that one slow 12/8. We did sort of. It was explaining chord melody stuff to it. But put a backing track. I saw. Oh, nice. Saw the Stray Cats there in oh the in San Diego. Oh, the gig later, Richard, is in Newport, Rhode Island. Is that a place called Island Harbor or Harbor Island? One of the I can't remember the name exactly. Um, it's a hotel, but we're outside, kind of by the water. Um, I can do that. The 12 bar blues, like where to land on the four as far as like when you're playing a solo. I assume is what you mean. Um, the yeah, you kind of the best thing to do when it comes to 12 bar stuff is to just the backing track's a great thing. Just play it over and over again. I do have a backing track. It's not on YouTube. There is one on a link to it in the description boxes that you can just download just a backing track. But to show you where to land on the four, as far as if you want just the chords, I could do one where we just land on the chords and we show where the progression is, and then take a solo and land on the four with a solo. But even the Rockabilly riff video, you can kind of see where it goes to the four. But just playing along to that rhythm wise, and you'll get the feel for it, and you know that four is coming. And if when the chord is getting ready to change, I'll do a couple of things. Either the easiest one to do is land on the root note of the chord you're going to. So if you're going to the four, if you're an A, you're going to the four, you're going to the D, land on a D. If you're going, and then the five is an E, is an E, so then you're fine. But you don't have to land on the D. You can land on the five. You can land on the A. There's a note that's in the chord. So in D you'd have A, D, F sharp. You can also start playing a riff that's leading up to that note. But you'll usually want to go to one of the root notes within the chord, or relatively in the chord. So something like, even if it's a 9 or a something like that. Now that's that riff right there. Anywhere that tritone. You can play that over the 4 and the 1. You can the 4 you can just keep playing that, and the 4 can come and go back to the 1, and you can just stay right on that riff because all of those notes are in both of those chords, or relatively within those chords. So this here, get your C, your F sharp. That's your 13 or 6 minor third over an A, which works. And then your A and your E. When you go to a D, the C becomes the flat 7, the F sharp becomes the third, A is the 5th, and the E is the 9. So it still works, even though you're going over to the 4. Now, when you go up to the 5, you have to change, but because the A isn't there. because that's like a 4. That'd be like an 11 or a sus 4 or something. So you'd have to make sure you change up if you're going to the 5. Hi, Gizmodus. I am doing good. How are you doing? Yeah, that's that pentatonic. It can get you can feel a little trapped down there, but the other thing you can do is add you have your pentatonic, right? You can always play over the major um, minor blues there. That's an easy thing to do. Um, the other thing you can do is play major pentatonic. So if you want more of a major sound, you could just play over the relative. You're in A, playing a minor pentatonic or a blues. You can also play. It's like playing a minor pentatonic over F sharp, but if you're but that's also considered a major pentatonic if you're in A. That makes sense. Mix in those thirds. I try to think of the notes that are relatively within the chords. Um, so the minor third, the flat 7, those are always good go-to riffs, go-to notes to play. That's why I like to learn solos. Just go through and find your favorite song, whatever it is. Try to find the tab or the notation, or just try to play it by ear. Or probably find a YouTube video on it. And even though you may not play that solo live, note for note or anything, you can find little riffs within there. And oh, that's cool, and you can extrapolate that and use that in your own music, and just say, okay, well, I can play, and then practice playing the riff in different keys. So you can say, oh, I like that riff, but that song's in a different key. So try transposing it, like like you said, Gizmodus, and put it up in an E or an A or B flat or whatever it is, and then you'll, as you start to play around with stuff like that, you'll make slight little alterations to it. You'll just find, well, it works a little bit better if I do it like this, and so then it just kind of becomes your own little thing. Yeah, that's one thing to do. The others have it go. You can go through, think of modes as well. That's something that can help get you out of that, get out of like the pentatonic and blues kind of box. But yeah, I say the same thing. I did talk about this in the video where you go. That's just based on a major scale. Just we're just adding the passing tones from the 5 down to the 3. So when you're on the 4, you add that major third there. It sounds very happy, and it works if that's the sound you're going for. But if you're playing a lot of rockabilly, it is blues based for the most part. So you want to, even though we're over, that's why I went on the C there. That's that flat 7. And then if you're bending to a D, so say we're here, and you want to throw in a blues bend, you can bend up from the minor third, so it's the F right there. Minor scale blues. Yeah, I mean, when it comes to modes, the easiest way to understand them is is just say you've seen like what are the names of the Greek names like Ionian, Dorian, what Lydian, Mixolydian, whatever. Anyway, the easiest way to play that is just if you know the major scale pattern, that's the one. That's the Ionian mode. The second mode, the minor 2, is just it's the same pattern. You're just starting on the second note and ending on the second. There's your Dorian in A. And then the third, start on the third note. And so on and so forth. And when you play the 5, which would be the Mixolydian, it works in A, and the 5, of course, of A is an E, an E7. So you'd have a D in there for E7, and in that scale, because it's still an A major scale, you're just starting on the 5th note and ending on the 5th note. It's there naturally. So that's the easiest way to understand that. The trick comes into when you're mixing modes, and a chord will come up, and it's a dominant chord or a 7th chord that's not dominant naturally within the scale. So if your 1 is a dominant chord, but again, it's just playing off of those flat thirds, flat 5s, flat 7s, like you're saying, and like you said, that's whatever root note it is, always 2 frets back, and that's for the 7th, and the minor third is 4 frets up. That's the flat 5, which is also the tritone. So that's the way I kind of understand. The best way I can explain it with different modes. And when you go to a different chord, there's the transitional chords in between. You can kind of throw in a lot of passing tones just going from one note to the other, as long as, and you stay within the major scale or blues scale, or even chromatically down for the most part, as long as you end up on a note that's you started it on a note that's relatively within the scale, and you're ending on a note that's within the scale, or at least preferably within the chord that you're going to. That way it sounds like it's really impactful. If it's like a 13th or an 11th or something of the note, if you hang on it too long, it can sound a little weird. Especially depending on, again, what chord is going on. In rock and roll and rockabilly, everything's going to be primarily dominant 7s, 9s, and that sort of thing. If you're the only guitar player, you can add in, make the 1 a 13, make it a 9, or a flat 5 or whatever, and just play around with that. That's just one stuff. Play the 9, or and you can solo kind of over those chords as if they were being played, even though they're not being played. Especially if you're the only guitar player. Yeah, you resolve to a non-root note, resolve to the 5. It's always fun to resolve to that, to the 5 of the chord that you're in. On the turnaround for a blues, you'll go and you'll hit which is this, you're just hitting the 5. You can bend up from the flat 7th, going to the 1. Just play around with different things and what works. Having the backing track has really helped. That's what really helped me, just playing solos over and over again, trying new things and seeing what works and what doesn't work, what sounds good, what kind of sounds off. Use your own ear to see what sounds good. But yeah, you can dramatically go all the way. I do this one riff where I play on the 1 here in B flat. Basic blues, pentatonic stuff. Just climb up chromatically from the flat 3rd of the 4, right? But I'm resolving to the root, and then immediately going to something else. And it's always fun to leave fun to leave spaces, leave holes, leave in the solo playing, not just the rhythm playing, but so you can play a note and just have one time you'll go around on the solo and it'll be busy, and then the next time it'll be sparse. And maybe sparse in the beginning of the solo, and you build up and you start adding more notes to it and back and forth. Just create a dynamic and have fun with it. Yeah, that's kind of the way I've always approached it. And every gig's different. Every day is different. I'll play one day and I feel like, oh, this is really working out. It's making sense and everything's working. And then the next time, it's like I just feel like a complete idiot. I don't know what I'm doing. And it just feels like nothing's working. None of these ideas that I'm trying to throw out there is working at all. So I just go back to the well, and which was the point for one of the points for the last video, was just to have those little riffs in your back pocket, so I can go, okay, clear my head. Let me go back to the muscle memory stuff for a little bit, play a couple tunes, and then I'll maybe give it a go again and come up with something different. Yeah. I was trying to come up with a different descriptor, but it's all fun, right? So I was trying to think of what else to. I wouldn't go too crazy learning a whole bunch of different scales or anything. The blues one, the modes, because it can get tricky when you're playing a dominant 2, right? The Dorian mode isn't gonna work if you're playing they call it a big 2, I guess, in Nashville, where you're just instead of a minor, which it should be diatonically, it's a major or even a major 7th. So you're gonna have to play Dorian mode, but you have to make sure that there is a minor. You could play the flat 3rd if you're going to make it minor. So that does kind of work with Dorian, but then you also have to play the flat 7th. So you're playing a Mixolydian mode, and you mix and match the different scales and different notes too. Also learning how to play the major scale in different positions as well, besides just this way. Play it. And then you can start to see all the connections, right? And then that's the major scale for the low string, and then the major scale for the A string. Right? it's definitely a good scale to know besides the pentatonic and the blues, and you can mix and match those scales together. Pentatonic, blues, major, minor. Um, and again, they say that you learn A minor scale, right? That's just the that's just the six mode. I forget the name, the Greek name of it, but that's just a C major scale, but you're starting on an A instead of a C. That's really all that it is. Let's see what else. See if there's any other kind of crazy scales I know, other than the bebop stuff, which again, that's just passing tones for the most part. You're just creating passing tones. The only thing you want to avoid are major seventh, minor sevenths. So if you're playing a note that's, the root notes of your chord, notes that are right next to the root note. So if it's a minor, especially minor seconds, they can sound really dissonant. And major sevenths, you don't want to hang too much on those. But they can be a passing. That's it. Aeolian. That's the one. Is that how you say it? Aeolian. Aeolian. Yeah, that's the scale. So I mean, it can work again if you're bouncing back and forth. But if you're over a D, you wouldn't want to hang too much on the E flat there until you're going to back to the A again. Then you're playing the blues. So no seventh at all. In the Aeolian scale, well, there's a seventh, but it's not a. Seventh. And it's still the seventh. It's still the same. It's the seventh of A, so it's the flat seven of A. I'm sorry. The flat seven of A, and it's the 5 of C. So, but it's still all the notes are in the major scale. Now, if you were to play a even A minor seventh is fine because you're just adding a note that's in the scale anyway. Unless you're doing something like trying to think of something else, like a minor major, whatever. There they are. There's all the scales and modes. And again, the same thing with the last, if you're talking about the last mode, it's the same deal. You're just starting on the seventh note. Right. So if those chords come along and you're reading a chart or whatever, you're learning a piece of music, and you've got a third comes up, play the third mode. Play around with the 3. So you'll be in C, and you're on the 1, and you're playing a major scale. And then all of a sudden the third comes up. Start on the 3. Whatever. And usually for something like that, I may go. Well, you're adding. You can add in passing tones, so you can. those flat sevenths and those minor thirds in between the rest of your scale, and that's what kind of creates the bebop sound, as those passing tones. I'll have to take a look at the chords for that song. I can't remember. I've never played through it, I don't believe, but I found a backlog of a bunch of Stray Cats Setzer type music that somebody put on there. Somebody put on a website. It's no longer around, I think. It was a site called Hoodoo Voodoo Lounge about 25 years ago. And there was a bunch of tab and sheet music for just so much of that stuff that I couldn't find anywhere else. And I downloaded, I think I downloaded most of it, and I have it somewhere. But it's a lot of it's just handwritten, so somebody, I don't know where it came from, who wrote it, or where, but it seems to be fairly accurate. Yeah, so major. So yeah, if you're playing a major fifth, right? But even if it's minor, the minor fifth. That would be the, that's still, there's the minor. So it's still going to work over that. As far as the B flat note goes, I mean, that's really, yeah. That would be your flat 5 that you could throw in there. You could use it as a passing tone. Or whatever. And you could play the major. If it's a 7, that's where the trick comes in, is that if it's a dominant chord, that you have to make sure that now you're playing the notes, that you're thinking of the notes, the mode as a dominant major progression as opposed to a minor. So it becomes something else. It's not diatonic anymore. And that's where you have to think about, you could play, if it's a 7, like if it's an E7, for example, and you're in C, you could just play the 5 mode. You could just play the major scale 5 mode in A. If, just to get familiar with it, if you're used to the pattern. Right? And then that creates puts all the notes in there that you're looking for. And then you can always alter the minor thirds and the flat 7s for each other. And I try to actively think about the notes that are in the chords that I'm playing. And that if a chord comes along and I say, oh, you could substitute that chord for a 9 or a 13 or even a tritone substitution or something like that, you can play off of that and play as if that chord is being played in your solo. And transitioning from 4 chords back to the 1, if you're in B flat or something, or F, or if you're in F or B flat, doesn't matter. Right? And you're back to the 1. So you don't have to play, those chords don't have to be played. So You know that that's where they are. So then just play a little diminished scale, walking up to the more, and again, the chromatic notes to add in a little bit more rhythm. Because one thing I feel that gets overlooked with soloing is the rhythm of it, the rhythm of your solo and where the notes land and how they land, and is more important actually, I think, um, because that's what's going to create the feel of the whole thing and the melody and the groove really that you're trying to convey. Um, yeah, you can keep going for I could keep going for hours talking about theory, and you can go down a rabbit hole real fast. Yeah, I'm sure there are plenty of tutorials on that song. But yeah, I'm always looking for new ideas for videos, and that's a great one. I haven't heard it in a while, but yeah, that's a good tune. I'll definitely add it to the list. Um, well, all right. Well, again, I appreciate everybody hanging out here today, and thanks for all the likes. Thanks for all the subscribes. Um, and all the views for the videos and everything. Um, and I'm gonna wrap it up here shortly, so I can get ready to go for my Sunday gig. Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah, I'd love to get you give you a lesson. And yeah, I love theory too. I could go on and on and on about it. I am gonna do a video about theory. It's probably going to be integrated into the guitar lesson stuff, so it's going to be in conjunction with that. I'll just put those in a separate playlist. They'll all be in the lesson playlist, but the theory ones will also be in a separate playlist as well. Um, once we get past the initial, very beginning of electric guitar stuff, so I'm going to start at the absolute beginning from how to how to get the guitar ready, what the notes are on the neck, how to read basic treble clef tablature, and how to string the guitar, how to do all of that stuff is going to be a video as well. So it'll just be a series that I'll consistently work on. I won't have all the crazy, like bells and whistles like the history thing and the TV effects and all that stuff. That's just fun that I like to throw in there when I can. Um, and I probably won't reamp and use the actual Fender Bassman for those videos. I'll that way because that takes up a big chunk of time to get the videos ready, to have to go back and do all the reamping. Sounds great, and it's great for the tutorials for the individual songs, but for like the lesson series, I'll probably just it'll sound like this. I'll just use this sound. Exactly, Gizmodus. I totally agree. It is easy. It's just been it's very convoluted, I feel, with terminology. Because I'll read different books and say, well, why didn't they just say it like this? It's more complicated than it actually needs to be. Makes it sound like it's a totally different thing when it's really not. Like, I was reading a book the other day about how you have minor pentatonic. And they said, oh, major pentatonic. It's the same thing, just play over the six. Except you're technically starting on the A. Um, but it's the same exact pattern, and it makes it. I think it just kind of inflates the list of scales unnecessarily. Yeah, yeah, I figured it's not necessary. This sounds fine. I will probably I will probably, yeah, modes exactly. Modes are quite simple. I will probably use a different guitar for the lesson videos. I'll probably use either my Tele or a Strat. Of course, it's a Squire, but that's fine. Um, if it still works, I haven't plugged it in years. The Tele works though. The only reason why is because these thumbnail dots. If you're new to guitar, this can look a little weird. Most guitars are used to having, what is it? Yeah, two dot dot dot. You know, dot on the 3, 5, 7. Sometimes there's a double on the 7 or somewhere, but usually it's like 3, 5, 7, 9, and then 2 on the 12. Sometimes the 9 doesn't have anything, but people are used to seeing that. I feel is very helpful. Most guitar diagrams look like that. Um, yeah, for the dots mostly. Just so it's familiar because of the diagram. But I just notice when I teach in person, when I play these guitars, people kind of struggle to go like, what are you playing there? They're not really sure because they don't see my hands covering up the dots there. Um, so it might be a little bit more recognizable to do that. But I won't be doing the over the shoulder view. Yeah, I've seen some videos of people doing that, and it seems cool at first until I start to go, I think you guys pointed it out where that's not something you would do in person. And the other thing too is that if you're going to see um, a live performance, you want to be able to kind of mirror that in your head, so you can kind of you could watch a performance and go, oh, I know what they're doing, and maybe commit it to memory and learn a little something while you're watching somebody else play. But if you're so reliant on looking at over the shoulder view, then you're going to be watching a concert or whatever, or even if it's on TV, you're going to go, I don't know what's going on unless it's like that. Um, and maybe it's something that might work for somebody at first, and then they sort of get off, you know, wean their way off of it or something. But I wouldn't even recommend starting like that. I never did, and that's definitely a new thing that I just don't think is really necessary. Um, Plus, it's an extra camera, and you got to set it up and have that over the get the right. I've seen people kind of angle the guitar a little bit more so it looks like this, and just gotta get used to it. Um, yeah, it's not that bad. But I'll have all the chord diagrams and stuff as well, and the scale diagrams. I do find that the when you use a chord diagram to write a scale out is very helpful, as opposed to just reading notation and tablature. I'll have all three, but um, the chord diagram with the scale has helped me quite a bit. All right. Well, yeah, it's an unnatural perspective, exactly. Um, all right. Well, I thank everybody again for hanging out, and I got to get going and get loaded up, and I will see everybody next week. It's going to be on a Sunday again. Let me just double check my calendar here. Yeah, it's going to be on a Sunday again. Um, I think, I mean, I have it set for 4 right now. I can change it to 2 if that seems to work better for everybody um, in general. So I kind of like the 2 o'clock, at least when I have to do Sunday. But yeah, next week will be Sunday, and then I'll be hard at work on this new video. Hopefully have it, hopefully have it up very soon within the next week or so. And I'll see you guys all later. Thank you guys again for checking out the videos, liking, subscribing, sharing the videos, whatever you guys can do. All of that stuff really helps the channel more than anything else. And I appreciate it, and we'll see you guys next time.